Hello, and thanks so much for clicking on this video. A few days ago, I covered a bombshell that hit the true crime YouTube community when Jared Leisek from Adventures with Purpose was officially charged with really the worst offense possible against a minor. The accuser is his cousin, and in my opinion, he not only admitted to what he did in writing, but also took the extra step of making numerous excuses for it rather than choosing to face the real-life consequences of it. Since that time, a slew of Adventures with Purpose employees have announced their departures.
And I've reached a fork in the road and I have to go a different direction now.
What is happening right now leaves a lot of uncertainty for me and my family. More than a lot.
I would like everyone to know that I am no longer a part of Adventures with Purpose. I have left the company because of personal reasons for moral obligations.
Stepped away. I've resigned from AWP due to moral obligations, due to, a lack of proper leadership.
And in the process, they voiced their extreme condemnation, not only for what Jared is accused of doing, but also some of the past practices of exploiting families of these true crime cases. These people are doing the right thing, in my opinion, and they're making a quick and fast break. They're choosing to do the right thing at high personal risk to themselves and their families, but they're doing it so they can sleep at night. This means they have that thing called a conscience. In the meantime, the only words we have from Jared are his own disturbing email exchanges with his cousin, the body of work he's left on Adventures with Purpose, and a few leaked videos that have started to surface and expose who Jared really is behind the scenes. I don't know anything about this situation. I am looking at the behavior, the tone, the condescension, the manner of speaking, what this person might be thinking about the person that he's speaking to. This was meant to be a private conversation. It was not supposed to surface on the internet. So he's saying this thinking that it's not going to ever be public. Maybe he didn't care, but it goes to show how he acts differently behind the scenes than on YouTube.
Any type of a hiccup or a hassle at all, I'm going after finances on you guys. For what I've lost from my sponsors. I'm going after what you guys have overcharged me. I'm going after data breach. Data breach is a tough one for you guys. As well as, check this out, you guys also have a location thing when you go to court over litigations for non-competes. If you guys have documents or anything. But appreciate you guys, and we had some good times along the way. Talk to you later. Bye.
A volcano ready to explode, covered by a happy mask, issuing legal threats, belittling, humiliating, bragging, blaming, all of those things wrapped into one video about some business dispute. With all of that factual and circumstantial information coming to light, it's clear that we have a true crime shyster on our hands. Now, there's a lot of bad news and good news about that, but let's start with the good news. The good news is that the cat is finally out of the bag in a big scale, and it's unlikely that Jared will be able to create another victim again. The other good news is that someone like me can come along and use this as a case study to show how to spot other shysters before they get as big as Adventures with Purpose. And that's why I made this video. And I'll get into the actual how to spot tips in a bit. But here's the bad news. People have been calling this out for quite some time. Some call out videos as far back as a year or maybe even longer. And a lot of people have been affected by this, most of all the families of the true crime victims who were exploited. In my book, there's really nothing lower than doing that, besides actually committing the crime itself. More bad news is that the entire true crime community on YouTube now has egg on its face because Adventures with Purpose was part of this community, whether we like it or not. So from the outside looking in, anyone who isn't really a inside part of YouTube True Crime thinks that they represent our community and they make all of us look bad. Also, their success wouldn't have been possible without YouTube. Therefore, YouTube has aided and abetted all of that harm. However, YouTube will not face any consequences for their role because their role looks more like kind of a shady drug pusher hiding in the shadows than a real responsible business entity. And since YouTube and social media offer such a scam-rich environment, if we still want to participate in the YouTube ecosystem on whatever level we want to participate, it's on us to protect ourselves from these shysters until the platforms get their acts together. And so we need to learn how to recognize these shysters before they blow up any bigger than they might be right now. So let's talk about that. But before we do, I wanted you all to take a step back and think about this in a bigger picture. In every ecosystem, there are big time crooks and there are small time crooks, right? Big time crooks are narcos and money launderers, and small time crooks are shoplifters and corner drug dealers. On social media, there are small time and big time crooks too. And now we have a clear example of what a big time crook looks like, especially in YouTube True Crime. One of the things that differentiates big time and small time crooks is the big time crooks are often aided by the government, either indirectly or directly, either by corruption or by just negligence or the laws that help them inadvertently. The social media ecosystem is driven by algorithms that are tuned toward profit, not user protection, and that's why it's a Disneyland for online shysters. So, okay, great, Lynn. We know that now, but how could we have known that before Adventures with Purpose went viral? Here's what to look for in the future with some specific examples of what I'm talking about. So first of all, I know this is going to sound corny, but pay attention to your instinct. Now, feelings are not facts, so don't make all your decisions based on these instincts. But for example, I'm a survivor. I know many people watching this are also survivors. And what I mean by that are people who have also experienced child SA or some sort of trauma in their life that involve sexual, okay? Unfortunately, people like me and you, when the minute we are faced with somebody who has that past, we get a feeling and it just comes across us. And when I first saw Jared online, I got that feeling, but I didn't know why, so I didn't make a final decision about him. I just took note of it. I got the same feeling when I first saw Don Wells standing there with his arm around his son right after Summer Wells went missing. I've gotten that feeling with a lot of other people, but again, I don't make my decisions based on that. Again, feelings are not facts. It's just something to take note of. It's a red flag, all right? The second thing is, does their behavior show that they're willing to exploit others, especially children? I think it's evident through the emails that went back and forth between Jared and his cousin that he's willing to exploit children, and also the testimonials that are coming out from Jared's former employees and some people, some families that he's worked with, that he is willing to exploit individuals, and also some of the treatment that he's given to people that he's been around. He's willing to see people as not human beings. So I want to show you what it's like for someone to see that fork in the road of, do I want to be exploitative or do I want to do this for the right reasons, and what it looks like to take that fork in the road.
What is happening right now leaves a lot of uncertainty for me and my family. More than a lot. But the one thing that we decided as friends is we have to be okay with putting that on the line, because this is a moment to stand, and to stand up and to fight against things that we are not okay with.
Now, another red flag to look for is, how does the person react when they have their back up against the wall? Do they use excuses and rationalizations or justifications or blame shifting? You know, when Sam the Adventure Man left, apparently Jared trashed him in using his big, huge platform on a community post. Rather than addressing the actual issues, he took that and turned it into a bash session on Sam. That to me is a red flag. Do they become controlling? Do they become threatening? Do they become insulting? Do they become intimidating? Now, particularly online, this is something to pay attention to. If they have lots of views or subs, how did they get those views and subs? What were the choices that they made in their content to get those views? In the choices that they made in the thumbnails that they created, in the shots that they took in the content? Were they over exploiting money shots? Look at this video of Kyler, who is Sam the Adventure Man's son, talking about how he says, accosted because he didn't get the money shot on a shoot with Adventures with Purpose.
It's hard for me to even talk about, but the old man was crying, and I didn't film. I did not want to go, because I was helping filming. I did not want to go up close to him, and I turned the camera away because he was crying, and I didn't want anything to do with it. And then I got accosted for missing what was called the money shot. And at that point, I just ended up storming out.
Another thing to look out for is if you know this creator both on YouTube and off of YouTube, do their offline actions match with their online words? Do they go online and say one thing and then, completely go offline and do something else and then make excuses for it? For instance, Jared reportedly pretended to be broke online all the time while privately bragging to people that he worked with about all the money he was making. Another thing was he pretended to be very nice and approachable while on camera, and then when people encountered him in private, he didn't treat them very well. And one last thing to look at, and this is something that anybody should look at when they're thinking about whether they're going to join a business or make a donation to a company or a nonprofit or support them or whatever. Is there a high rate of turnover? Now, unfortunately, it's really hard to determine whether there's a high rate of turnover on YouTube because life on YouTube goes much, and social media goes much faster than in real life. So you just have to watch the patterns. And if you go from one community to another community and in the ranks of their team, if you see that there's a lot of turnover and those people are starting to speak out, maybe start listening to what those people say when they speak out, but listen to whether they're saying it to bring awareness and a warning or if they're saying it to retaliate. There's a difference. If they're just doing it because they're angry and they want to get back at the person, there's not a lot of credibility to what they're saying. But if they're saying it because they're just speaking their piece and then not making a lot of drama out of it, that's a lot more credible. And in my view, a year ago, when Sam the Adventure Man left Adventures with Purpose, he made a straightforward video about it. Wasn't overly insulting. He didn't drag Jared through the mud. He just said, this is why I'm leaving. He expressed his disappointment and how he felt. And then in turn, apparently he was dragged through the mud. So all I'm saying is if there's turnover and in that turnover, people are speaking out and you see cooperation in the actions that are being called out, it's just something to pay attention to. And not any one of those red flags should be a determining factor, but everything should be taken into consideration when you're deciding, am I going to put my time, attention, and energy, or even money into this thing? Ryan Upchurch donated $100,000 to Adventures with Purpose because apparently he thought that they were doing great stuff. And now he reportedly wants his $100,000 back. So anybody can be manipulated when their emotions are pulled upon. And, finally, in all honesty, the Kylie Rodney case and their behavior around the Kylie Rodney case deserves its own video, in my opinion. If it weren't for Adventures with Purpose, a bunch of traumatized teenagers wouldn't have been re-victimized over and over and over again every time they opened up an app that probably once was a place for them to escape at one time. With no credentials whatsoever, no law enforcement background. They came out and they found her and they claimed foul play. And Jared even went onto the panel of a popular YouTuber with his power and his influence. And with just a few little words, he changed the minds of many people who were convinced that it was an accident. And if it weren't for Jared saying those silly few words, YouTube wouldn't have profited off of the pain of Kylie's family and friends. And her mom even came out and said, please stop. And they did this after masquerading, they meaning Jared and Adventures with Purpose, after masquerading as humble servants to the families that they were helping. Shame on them. So when I say them, again, I mean Jared and anyone at Adventures with Purpose who knowingly participated in exploiting these families. I can't prove who knows other than Jared. So it's really on each individual to come to terms within themselves. And I commend those of you who have personal experiences with Adventures with Purpose and spoken out. I know it takes a lot, and I wish you the best of luck moving forward. To all of the viewers out there, just be on the lookout for the next big or small shyster. Whether you like them or not, if they display the behaviors I described above, think twice before you give them any of your attention, time, or money. And please remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and consider becoming a member. Thank you again for watching, and peace out.